everybody, and welcome to Total War Warhammer 40,000 Alpha Strike Gamescom edition. Oh, did I put you in the right seats? I did. Fantastic. We're here today to talk about Total War Warhammer 40,000. So there's been a bit of a wave of footage this morning from press. Oh, I'm quiet because I've not got the mic right in front of my mouth. We've had a bit of a wave of footage from the press and from content creators this morning. So you'll have seen a lot of stuff already. We are going to be covering the same build, but we are going to be giving a little bit of a difference here in that we're going to explain some of the stuff that's going on. And also we are going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that isn't in this build, just to give some context on what is. We have with us today Oscar, our representative from the battle delegation.
Hello. Should I introduce myself a
Absolutely.
bit more? Yeah. Hi, I'm Oscar. Used to do work on the Warhammer Fantasy team back in the days, and now part of the battle team. I'm our combat specialist.
Yep.
If you can put it that way in terms of design. So kind of have
the practical combat specialism.
No.
Send you out to fight for us.
No, not a good fighter in real life.
Unless you're all in green war paint, ready to charge in. And we have Will.
I'm waving at the camera. There's the camera. Hello. Hi, I'm Will. I am a campaign designer on Total Warhammer 40,000. I have been a campaign designer at this company for a while now. I did a lot of stuff on Warhammer DLC. You may remember me from some ancient Total War arena streams.
Yes,
in
it's a reunion.
Past. Yeah, so I'll be here to talk about a bit about what we want to do with campaign.
Fantastic. I can see everyone saying low audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick us onto the Be Right Back stream for just 1 second while I whack those numbers up. You can hear us better.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Oh, we've got like a 5 to 6 second delay anyway. So, people saying stream's over. It's, I hope you guys enjoyed. They're saying no will.
They might be trolling us, so I don't know.
Bedson, throw... Is Will registering when he speaks? Will, you need to speak.
Testing.
Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to throw over to the game screen. Alright, so you guys should be able to see the main screen now. So, Will, if you can give one more introduction and we'll see if that works. Just yell. Yeah, you can come and join me. Okay. Me and Will are going to join a mic. You're gonna, Will.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Will. I am a campaign designer on Total War Warhammer 40,000. And I've been doing that for a long time on various projects, DLC, arena, all kinds of things. And I'm here to talk about some of what we are doing with the campaign in this game.
Fantastic. This is going to be... now when we go back to main cam, we're all in the wrong order. So now we are the two-headed Josh. And joining us with her is Oscar Will.
Hello.
We also do have on the PC, we have James Bedson, who you will hear us shout at as Bedson or James or whatever we take. But he's going to be playing for us. Bedson, I won't ask you to introduce yourself because you have no microphone. But Bedson he'll be playing at, we're aiming him for like a mid-skill level. We've told him not to be too good, not to be too bad. But we're trying to represent the average experience because otherwise he could absolutely just steamroll. And we all know he would.
Apparently your mic isn't working now.
How can my mic not be working? Mic is on, it's just very directional. All right, well, we're just going to have to get very
So we can do a bit of wiggling.
Okay, well, you're not going to hear much of me anyway. I'm just going to kind of introduce you guys and then move on. All right. So, what we have here is the build that we took to Gamescom. So if you are at Gamescom and you're on the show floor, you'll be able to play this now. Before we jump into it, you'll see that there's 3 sections. There's learning the basics, which is the illumination campaign. I think that's what the cinematic is. We will be skipping the cinematics just because we've got a lot to talk about. There is the taste of campaign, which is, as it says, it is a taste of the campaign, right? It's a thin slice, but we'll be talking a bit about the stuff that is there or isn't there. And then we've got a battle challenge, which is a larger battle that we'll be able to play. So before we get in, there are a couple of questions that we saw from the last stream that we just wanted to tackle first. One of them was, I didn't realise it at the time, but I was dropping quite the bombshell when I asked Dave about ammo. A very quick fire, it was, is there infinite ammo? Yes, and we didn't really get the chance to expand on that. So Oscar, I wanted to give you the chance to talk a little bit about ammo before we dive in.
Yeah, so, I mean, we had when we were starting the project, we had a lot of thought about, like, should we do ammo or not? It's an integral part to a total war game. But I think there's various factors as to, like, why we decided not to do ammo in the end. Partially, it's not just that core to the actual fantasy. Warhammer 40k is, all about the action and kind of just, like, we wanted to kind of keep it more towards, what's fun and exciting. The other part there is, like, we're no longer in medieval ages. You don't just have a bow and an arrow.
Yeah.
You have a squad with different weapons. And technically, we could track the weapon of each squad member and each weapon, but that gets very messy very quickly for gameplay in terms of, like, well, when should a unit attack? When should a unit not attack?
Yeah.
Or, like, when do you actually run out of ammo? So it's just a simpler, neater gameplay experience that I think is more fun. So
yeah, that makes sense. And the second question in the same vein then was, how common and powerful are the kind of army abilities they were saying? But I think they're referring to things like the lance strike and the bombardments. Yeah,
it really depends on, again, the army ability. So you have, like, faction army abilities, like the Space Marine doctrines, that will always be there. Generally speaking, we've kind of put an internal cap of, like, you're probably not going to have more than 8 army abilities in any given battle. And obviously these range in power levels a lot. So airstrikes are, generally speaking, going to be on a lower power level. We're still, tweaking with the balance of them. Mm-hmm. At this stage, we're definitely erring towards the impactful. But, we're keeping an eye out on, like, how powerful they should be. And obviously then you have these, like, really powerful fleet bombardments or death strike missiles, the land strikes that, need to have a lot of impact. But we need to have ways of basically controlling them from a campaign point of view. It's like, when do you actually get them? I think Will can probably explain more about that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that is this doesn't work. It's fine. We're getting cozy. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to avoid the situation that I think we maybe stumbled into on Warhammer 3 sometimes, where a character would just get a massively powerful army ability kind of just for free for being them. Like, if you have a big powerful fleet bombardment, that's happening because your fleet is in orbit, right? And you put that fleet there, and you have upgraded that fleet, and the enemy is not doing things that are stopping you from using that fleet, right? So you should have, where there are these very powerful, game-changing abilities, you should have levers on the campaign map that help you kind of counteract them and stuff. So we want to make sure that there's control coming from the campaign layer as well as in battle.
Fantastic. Apologies for any of the microphone issues. We will, once Bedson's into a battle, perhaps we will quickly pop and I can have a look at those while he's doing it. Speaking of, I said we'd skip the cinematics, but actually, I think if we start off with the illumination cinematic, I can put us full screen. And And then I actually can scurry and see if I can fix these mics.
The galaxy burns. There is no peace amongst the stars. They flicker like a million candles holding back the night. Some will falter, some will fade. A few will linger on, their worlds worthy of protection. The Emperor's left hand descends for his angels. Courageous, dutiful, but ignorant of the trials to come. A journey is required. These warriors must seek the light before they can safeguard it. For if they fail, the candle they hope to shield, and many others, will be extinguished.
Cogitation protocols initializing. Nodal link established. Fleet modules online. Synchronizing crew data of the Emperor's Torch.
What is our status, Fernand?
Captain Halsor has made planetfall and awaits our arrival on Umbral Prime.
Very well. Commence mission protocols.
Cogitating. Decrypting mission objectives. Ident seals verified. An inquisitorial petition for aid. Operation Illumination. An inquisitorial vessel named the Sagacity has been lost, presumed crashed. It was transporting cargo of extreme importance to the Imperium.
What cargo?
Data has been redacted. It must be recovered at all costs. Arrival imminent, Lord.
Prepare for real space re-entry.
Real space translation complete. Ship systems operating within acceptable efficiency parameters. Thank the machine god. Entering orbit of Umbral Prime. Establishing box link with our strike detachment.
Captain Halsor, have you located the crash site? Coordinates have been confirmed. It lies to the east. Then we are close.
Survey of planet complete.
We are mobilized and ready to move. We honor the chapter. Reposition to target coordinates. advance.
High levels of Zenith activity detected. Expect resistance.
We are primed to engage. Brothers, intone your battle hymns. It is time for war. Recover the cargo at all costs.
Hello, we have called in an audio expert from outside who will be coming in to fix some of our issues, but otherwise, until now, we have Will here to talk about some of this campaign section.
Yeah, we can use the one working mic and do a bit of hot seat for the moment.
Exactly. Oscar, could you pass me my papers, please?
Cool. So what our colleague James has been gamely stalling by showing you a bit of the tutorial as we've dealt with our technical issues. But what you're seeing here is the first planet of our tutorial campaign called Illumination. This is a sort of semi-narrativized campaign, a little bit like the tutorial campaign of Warhammer 3, where we do a bit of kind of scripted storytelling and kind of get you onto the basics of the game.
Yeah. So the first thing that they're seeing here really for the first time is planets, right? And let me give them a nice full view of that. So how does a planet work compared to what they're used to in traditional Total War?
Cool. So planets are kind of almost like the basic kind of fundamental gameplay unit of the game, right? Like most of what you're doing is fighting on planets. And a planet alone is quite like a detailed gameplay experience, right? Like this isn't the kind of thing where you fight one battle and you capture a whole planet, right? A planet has many regions, many settlements, many battles to fight. We're imagining that something like this, so this is a small planet, and even within that scope, this is like a relatively restricted one. Like most of them have way more regions than this. That would be probably equivalent to, say, like a continent in kind of Warhammer 3 terms.
Yes, and so this is a single planet, right?
Yeah.
But a system.
Yes.
And are we able to? Is this the one where we can zoom out to a system? Well, we'll be showing that in the next one.
We'll show that later. But yes, a single planet is made of multiple. A single star system rather is made of different planets. You can traverse between those planets by flying through space. You can fight on multiple planets at the same time. And that set of planets within that solar system is what represents probably the closest equivalent to what we would have as a traditional campaign in another Total War game.
And so what they can see is there are quite a few grayed out buttons there.
Yes.
So this build we've called it a slice and a taste of the campaign, right? What isn't in this build?
The tutorial in particular, which we're looking at now, is even more restricted, so there should be a few more buttons that you can press in the final thing. Like a lot of the content's not there, so you won't see much in terms of building trees. A lot of the interactions around fleets won't be accessible, so we'll have a little taste of what you can do with the fleet later on, but you won't have the full range of upgrades and selections and things that you can do there. There's a tech tree, which you can't see here, but again, we can talk about that a bit later when we talk about the theatre and how that all ties together.
We are going to... Bedson, feel free to continue on, because it's going to bring up our first talking point of moving around the planet.
Cool.
Firstly, I guess... Oh, you are going to have to fight this one. Before we fight this one, moving around a planet is a bit different.
Yes. So one of the big things about this Total War, we basically have had to build everything from the ground up, from scratch, right? This is an entirely new campaign model. And while that, had challenges, right? I think one of the first things I remember doing was rewriting how you select things in the game, right? Yep. That's something we kind of had at basic. It's given us an opportunity to also look back at various stages of Total War and be like, well, what are the best elements of all of them? So in more recent Total Wars, you've had this quite granular free movement, which is, feels like, there's a lot of flexibility there. But it has lost something that we had in the older games, where you have this like more kind of board game-like, risk-like, district-based movement. And what we tried to do with this game is get a kind of best of both worlds, right? So while there's a kind of granularity within the map that's much higher than you would have found in Shogun 1 or Med 1, your detachments, which is what we call armies in this version, they still move between these kind of larger segments of space and control those areas of space. Which means you no longer have to worry about, I can move 95% of the way to the settlement, but I can't quite make it. So it gets rid of a lot of that fiddliness, and also makes it a lot easier to handle things like choke points and kind of do much kind of broad stroke strategic gameplay. So,
helpful for the AI as well, right?
Yes, it definitely kind of reduces the amount of spaces that the AI needs to think about, but also makes it easier for you to understand what the AI can do. Right, it's a lot easier to be able to predict where the AI will attack, which makes it a lot easier for you as a player to kind of plan out your strategy in advance.
And so maybe fewer of those. I'm constantly just chasing them every turn.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Feel free to go into the battle, Bedson. And I believe we'll be trying to hot swap.
Yes. Cool. We'll do a little bit of a swap.
I mean, allegedly that might work. So you may wanna give it a little hello and see. Got our mic man. Will, do you want to say hello into the mic just to see if there's any chance?
Hello.
Any chance you guys can hear Will while we're loading in? I'll go game screen so you don't all see Will's face. No. Okay. Then we've got 2 working mics, and that's fine. We'll keep hot swapping. In the meantime, we'll enjoy the intro cinematic here. Oscar, these cinematics, these all pre-rendered out?
I mean, these are fully dynamic. Basically, they'll depend completely on your army composition. They're gonna reflect your customization choices. They're gonna reflect your faction colors. And basically, we just want to show off, the cool units you have, and kind of really help set the scene for the battle, and just like elevate the storytelling that our battle does.
And I think the idea of it being dynamic is probably one of the coolest things that we've seen from these in-battle cutscenes, right? We'll get into faction customization a little bit, but the idea that it is your people going into battle. So we've seen Astra Militarum play in battle last time, and that was Will playing that, a different Will, I'll call that. How do Space Marines, and Bedson, feel free to just play through as we go, how do Space Marines differ to Astra Mil as you're playing through?
I mean, it is a very different play experience. Space Marines obviously come in few numbers. You're going to have less units around. The units that you have are going to be quite durable, because obviously Space Marines have a lot of armor, they've got a lot of health per entity. They also regenerate in and out of combat. So you kind of, as long as kind of like the threats that are coming your way are managed and you don't get overwhelmed as a Space Marine player, you can keep taking on the odds. Like a Space Marine at choke point might be able to take unit after unit. So playing as the Space Marines is really about like controlling the battle, controlling your exposure, and effectively kind of trying to dictate like where the fight is going to happen, trying to spring surprises on the enemy by bringing in your drop pods. And just taking advantage of like what makes the Space Marines so great and powerful.
And we're the Ultramarines here, right?
Yes.
And that's who we'll be playing for the tutorial campaign.
That is not true. These are not the Ultramarines. This is a special chapter for the tutorial. I can't remember what they're called, but they are not Ultramarines.
The near Ultramarines.
Ultramarine successor chapter.
What's a word below Ultra? The partial Marines.
Oh, they're just Marines. Marines.
So you're playing as not the Ultramarines here. This is a new map. I'm good, thank you. All right, we're slowly fixing the broken mic, so please excuse us if you hear any interference. So this is a new map we've seen. I think this map is called Crashdown.
I think so, yeah.
And where does this? They can see it in the MENA map as well. Where would you say this ranks in terms of map density?
I mean, this is definitely one of the more open maps we have.
So a couple of choke points that we're seeing the orcs come through now, but otherwise pretty open.
Yeah, it's basically centered around this massive crashed ship that the orcs are trying to funnel through, and obviously they're getting eviscerated in proper gory fashion. You kind of really see that with Space Marines, the bolt rifles pretty much have the capacity to kill an orc in one shot.
So things running at you through the open, they're not going to have a very good time.
No.
And we can see as well, we spoke about it on the last stream, but that was nearly friendly fire. But the weapon swapping, right? So they're using different weapons at different points here is what it makes sense to use to kill this enemy.
Yeah, correct.
Bedson, if you can actually click on one of the profiles there, expand, or just click on, there you go. So we can even see here all of the different weapons that they've got. And these will have very different profiles to the ones that we're seeing with the Astra Militarum.
Yeah, like one of the big things that we kind of worked on is like bringing in like the stat called evasion.
Yeah.
Which basically controls your chance to hit. So it kind of counteracts accuracy. And some targets will have fairly high evasion, and they're going to be harder to hit, especially in cover, where something like a vehicle has very low evasion, so it's going to be very easy to hit. So even like your orc is probably going to be able to hit a land raider at distance.
Will it do much? We don't know. But
We'll see.
So the other thing this has that the Billy World video and stream that we did doesn't have is Fog of War. So how does line of sight and Fog of War work here?
So basically the core difference is that we've really kind of brought down like the distances that you can see, so you have less certain knowledge of the battlefield. And the core difference that we've obviously now visualized it with the Fog of War shader, so you can quite clearly see the areas you can and cannot see. And depending on the unit type, you'll have different vision ranges, for example. So vehicles are quite blind at a distance.
Yep.
So if you, with many of the bigger vehicle weapons, if you actually want to fire at, like, say, like the max distance of a Baneblade cannon, you actually need to be kind of scouting for them.
Well, that makes sense. So you're varying your kind of the usage of your units in the army, right? You've got one looking ahead to make sure that they've got line of sight for the long range weapons.
Yeah.
So sight isn't always as far as your weapon range is.
Yeah. And you can also, for example, see here in the middle of the map, the orcs came through the spaceship. And there was initially a building there. And that building basically obscured the line of sight into that area. So by destroying buildings that are in your way, you can gain more line of sight. And for example, with forests, you can bombard a forest to open up line of sight through it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you can use, for example, some vehicles have smoke screen abilities.
Oh, fantastic!
That you can basically activate to create a cloud of smoke that will actually block line of sight through it.
Yep. And we were seeing there some of the intercessors, although fighting in melee, still popping off shots with their pistols as well.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that the new engine has kind of unlocked for us, the ability to have that weapon switching even during combat.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work to ensure that basically entities in combat, especially melee combat, feel more kind of natural and kind of do the thing that they would do. So, you know, for example, with this like missile in melee behavior that we created, a key part there was like no longer want to just fire fake bullets and pretend that we fired a bullet in melee. We actually want the pistol to be taking the shots, and you know, kind of get the right cadence of like, well, Space Marine will, like, say an assault intercessor will pop off a shot with the bolt pistol when there's a good opportunity for it.
Very much like in tabletop, right?
Yeah. And we just like want it to make sense. Like we really want to kind of push forward the fantasy of the combat, and kind of make it feel like, you know, this is what combat in the 40k universe would look like.
Yep. And I think it's done a fantastic job there. So I'm trying to see if there's any questions I can pull from chat. Apologies, there is someone playing around with the computer while we're still doing it, so there may have been some disruption there. But people talking as well about the... Oh, there we go. That's a fantastic explosion. The blood and gore. Like, it is a very blood and gory game. And that is... It's not something that's separated out like there's been in previous Total Wars. This is all part of the base game experience because we felt it was essential, like you just saw, to that visual experience for the game.
Yeah, and it's also just crucial for help selling the impact of weapons.
Yeah,
that's something that we really try to focus on, is like ensuring that things react in the world. Like when an attack hits you, you react.
Yeah,
like you'll see, you know, Space Marines do like small glancing movements, for example, when, like, say, even like a last gunshot might hit them. It won't stop the Space Marine, but you might see a small like impulse on the shoulders or something similar.
Yeah. One thing as well, people may notice in the difference between this and the creator and press footage is, unfortunately, at the time of capture, there was a small issue with the VFX in some of their footage, so you won't be seeing that here, and that is why there is that difference. How are you doing with the battle, Bedson? He's doing well. Again, it's very hard to find volunteers to play on stream for us in front of so many people, but he's doing a fantastic job. So to take some of the questions that I can see here, there is a question about space battles, which is something that I believe we spoke about in the community inbox stream we did back in January, which is they won't be in there for launch, but we know that they're an important part of the IP, and we will look at them beyond them. Another question about release date, of which I'm not just going to throw out there, but we are able to say that we're coming in 2027. Whoa! Good timing for that. So you can expect to see us then. And there'll be more information about the closed beta soon. So you'll be able to, those of you who signed up and are lucky enough to get in, will be able to experience and give some feedback yourselves there. This feels like a real last stand of those orcs. The morale system in game then. We saw with the Astra Militarum that can be quite important in make or break. How does morale differ for these Space Marines?
Well, firstly, Space Marines don't break. They are unbreakable. They can be morale shocked, so if you get them, get their belief low enough, they'll still take the penalties that are associated with battle shocked.
Yep.
But you'll never see a Space Marine unit run, and usually that kind of means that Space Marines can keep going when the odds are against them, and can quite often also recover from that situation, provided that, again, the pressure isn't too much for them.
Yep.
So, as a Space Marine player, you kind of really need to keep your eye out for when is my unit under such pressure that I need to intervene. I need to, pop off a doctrine to help them fight, or use a bombardment, or spawn in some Terminators.
Yep.
With a teleport.
We are going to ask Will just to say one sentence.
Hello.
And we'll find out in a few seconds if you were finally able to hear Will. Otherwise, we're just going to tell Will that he's on stream, and me and Oscar will keep going. No, they can't. It's fine, Will. We've got our other Will. There's too many Wills. We've got our single hot mic solution that we will continue to work with. Before we move on from here, you will see there's deployed, lost, and remaining. An intentional kind of different wording here of lost.
Is this a mention to the injured stuff?
Yes.
I think probably Will is probably better placed because it's a campaign feature.
Well, we'll be going back to campaign.
I'm gonna let him
we'll do the old swap.
So yes,
feel free to end out, Bedson.
Yeah, one thing that we're keen to do with Space Marines in particular is kind of represent how kind of resilient they are, right? They're super difficult to recruit in campaign. You're not going to have very many of them, so it would absolutely suck if they just all died randomly in battle. So a Space Marine, entity or a unit can be, wiped out in battle, but there's a small chance they'll kind of come back after in campaign. So it's a little bit kind of like, if people are familiar with the Dead Rise Again stuff with the vampire counts in Warhammer, it's kind of a way for you to get a little bit of resilience in your units and keep going in battle.
Fantastic. We will just now then move on to talking about customization. So what we are now is into our taste of the campaign. Oscar, just say hello.
Hello again.
Let us know if you can hear Oscar. They are saying they can hear tapping. Oh wow, we may have fixed the microphone.
That sounds good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Will. Feel free to depart. We're going to put ourselves back on screen. Let's go that side. Oh, we can all be heard. Only took us half an hour. All right, so we've got a name system here, similar to others that they've seen. So there are limitations in what name you can pick.
Yes. Is that a question?
That is a question.
That's a question.
Yes.
I will answer that question. So for various reasons, we wanted to kind of make sure that the names you're picking were at least somewhat in line with the lore. So you kind of pick from sets of pre-built combinations of words. However, there's a ludicrous variety. I think there's something like 17,000 combinations for Space Marines, and you can come up with some quite silly ones, and also some very edgelordy ones if you want. It's been interesting watching the streamers this morning, how they split between absurd and edgy.
Yeah,
so,
the number of pink Marines was very high.
People either go pink or they go kind of black and red, I feel. Those are the two extremes.
Yes. We'll see if there's anyone in chat who has any suggestions of a name based on what they can see. So short, medium, and long, you can always be the something of something. I find, obviously, because you can make your own version of the Flesh Terrors. I find that what's he called himself? Space Marines. Do you know what? Honestly, I quite like it.
One of my favourite is 1,000 Marines, just because it's just extremely descriptive of what a chapter is.
Star Children. Actually, do you know what, Bedson? I really think you've done a good job here with Space Marines. Do you know what?
The Emperor was not feeling very
innovative that day. Maybe change one word, otherwise we won't be able to differentiate between the things that are custom for our name and things that just say the word Space Marines. Okay, we'll be the
Space
Space Bears. So one thing we want to point out just immediately off the rip is this is not the full customization that we're intending to have in at launch. This is a much more limited version. The reason for that is it's quite simple, and that is during our testing, this is a build for Gamescom, right? This is a build where people are going to sit down, they're going to have 30 minutes to play. During our testing, our testers would spend 40 to 45 minutes on our customization.
And that's until we told them to stop.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's there's a lot of granularity you can get into here. But just for Gamescom, we're just giving you the kind of basic 3-color scheme. But even with that, you can do some pretty fun combos.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that we're missing here, so when you make your own custom chapter, it is more than just the colors, right?
Yes.
You're able to make a character.
Yes, so you'll have your warlord character, what we call them, who's your faction leader. You'll have some more kind of 3D customization options about how they look, as well as some kind of gameplay stuff about their loadout. And we will also allow for customization of faction traits. So you'll have a big suite of faction traits you can pick from, which have like sometimes quite materially like chunky impacts on your gameplay. So, you know, if you want to really lean into being a good boy Space Marine chapter who likes defending the weak, and, you know, you give all your territory back to the Imperium, you can pick traits that lean into that. Or if you want to be a bit of a rogue, a bit of a rascal, there'll be traits that support that playstyle as well.
So when you've made your faction, you've got colours, you've got traits, and you've made a character. And that is not just Space Marines.
Yes, all factions will have this full suite of customization options.
Fantastic. How are we looking, Bedson? Bedson, you collect Dark Angels, don't you? And I think that has become very apparent in the colour scheme you've chosen.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to flag is, you know, we're not like gating colours or icons, right? If you want to make your kind of cosplay Dark Angels with this system, we're not going to stop you, right? You're not going to have all the kind of, you know, special units that the Dark Angels might have, but you can at least kind of LARP as them for a little while.
Okay. Anything else we want to say about customization before we move on? No? I guess the only other thing being customization, you'll see it on the campaign map, you'll see it in battle. One of the limitations for our Gamescom demo here is you will not see them represented in the unit cards.
Yes.
The unit cards will still look very blue.
Yes, this is a surprisingly difficult technical challenge to resolve, but we're looking at solutions to it. Cool.
All right.
He's actually made a nice. Most people don't make such nice.
Yeah, but he's become that the tester we were talking about. Move on, Benson.
Yeah, get on with it.
Fantastic. So now I think will actually be a better example of what we were trying to talk about before with the region moving.
Yes.
So we'll show that first. But before we do, once we're loaded in, I don't know if there's a little cutscene here.
Yes, there is. So I guess we can watch that.
War rages in the Talos Stars subsector. A critical astropathic relay station has fallen to the Orc Scourge. We, the Adeptus Astartes, are inbound. Our mission, to retake the station and purge the Xenos threat. Suffer not the alien to live.
Entering orbit. Orc fleet detected. Taking damage. Retaliating. Targeting large batteries. Enemy fleet destroyed. Proceeding with bombardment protocols. Awaiting further instruction.
Strike Force is primed for deployment. Our battle brothers are ready to make planetfall. The objectives are clear and verified. Slay the Orc filth and capture the relay station. For the Emperor.
Okay, fantastic. So that's a bit of a mood setter for this Gamescom demo, right? Welcome to our slice of a campaign. So we'll be the Space Marines here,
yes,
as we were in the previous.
And yeah, I do want to stress this is very much a slice of campaign. If James zooms out a bit, we'll see what we have to deal with on this planet.
And in the system.
Well, I was going to talk about the planet first, but let's talk about the planet first. So again, this is like a small slice of what you would see on a whole planet. This is like 2 to 3 large regions split up into, I think, a total of about 14 to 15 districts. That's probably about 10% of what you'd see on like an actual full planet.
Yep. Are all planets the same size?
No, we have a mix. Not only just in terms of physical size, but also in kind of the number of regions and districts you would find on each one. And they also have quite different biomes, quite different world types. This I think is like a wastes world.
Yep.
So it's got these kind of really gross, grungy, toxic pools and funky looking trees and stuff. And each one of them is hand authored, right? So the actual kind of layouts are all done by our design team, so each one of them should feel really unique. And then we have a lovely layer of kind of procedurally generated art on top that kind of fills in all the gaps with trees and stuff. So it allows us to iterate and make cool maps really, really quickly and do fun stuff. And yeah, if you want to then zoom out to the whole map.
Are those ships reflecting the colours that he selected?
They should be, yes.
It looks it. Yeah, should we zoom out to the system?
So this is an example of a kind of normal-sized campaign map. So you'll see there are not all of these planets are things you can land on. You can't land on the gas giant; that'd be a really bad idea. But you would have, say, 3 to 4 kind of navigable planets that you would go to in a campaign map, and that would be the kind of full extent of your campaign experience within a single campaign. Should we talk about the theatre stuff now, or do that later?
We can talk about that now.
Yeah, but that is not where it ends. We love putting more layers in our game. So each of these campaigns will fit into a larger map, which we call the theatre, the Crusade Theatre. And that is effectively an interconnected series of campaigns, each of which is integrally connected to what's happened in the previous ones, right? So the tech that you research in this campaign, you can wrap up this campaign, you can complete your objectives. That's a nice kind of a point where you might wrap up for the weekend. But then your next campaign that you fight in the Crusade Theatre, you'll have those same techs. The units that all ranked up will have the same ranks. The characters that you pick skills for, they'll have the same skills. You'll probably get like a reward for completing this campaign that will affect potentially not just the next campaign, but all the campaigns in the theatre, right?
Yep.
If this campaign was themed around rescuing a major armaments factory, winning that campaign might mean that all future campaigns in the theatre, you get, increased or better weapons, better tanks and stuff like that.
And how many campaigns can I expect to play in a theatre?
So the theatre is around 10-ish campaigns total. You won't need to go through all of them to win. They culminate in a big final campaign at Armageddon. So that's the kind of end goal of all of this. All the factions are fighting over Armageddon. But really, it's up to you how many of these you want to do along the way. If you're feeling, really elite, you can just kind of blast through and do it in 2 or 3. And we'll actually, the turn counter will stay consistent over the whole theatre. So I think a fun challenge that maybe some of our streamers will want to do is how many turns can they complete the theatre in.
And we'll probably see how many, as in the max and the minimum, right?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, fantastic. So really we've got a campaign within a campaign now as well.
Yeah, so the overall theatre experience is by a long way the biggest kind of combined gameplay experience we've ever done in Total War, right? Like it is, effectively multiple Mortal Empires stapled together.
Yep.
But we've broken it in such a way that if you want to just play for a few hours on a weekend and tick some stuff off and feel you completed something, you still have the opportunity to. So it's really kind of best of both worlds.
Awesome. We have so many questions, and a lot of those questions I can see will be answered as we get through them. So to start off, let's reiterate again about the changes to regions. Now it's a little bit more obvious.
Yes.
I believe, Bedson, you're able to move. Is it the optimal thing for you to move here? There's the Land Raider event, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. So each of these kind of sort of triangular shaped things that you can just see highlighted here, that's what we call a district. So that's an area of movement. So that's effectively the space that James's Marines are controlling now. So anyone who tries to enter that who's an enemy, they will have to fight him. That's almost like his zone of control.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to capture the whole region, he'd have to go to the region capital, which is where you can see that nice big building with the icon. So that's effectively your capital settlement. So there's lots of positioning and positional gameplay you can do on the way. It's not like you just jump from capital to capital.
Yep.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do on the way. So we have a nice kind of mix of granularity and clarity.
Which is something we've seen players talking about they don't want it to just be hopping between settlements and making sure a planet feels big, right?
Yes,
like this
critical,
space.
Yeah.
Speaking of space, fleet interactions. So we have said there won't be naval battles, as in you're going in and you're playing a little RTS.
Yep.
But they're, at least for launch, but there are still ways to interact with the fleet. It's a very important part of the experience.
Yeah, so that kind of interrelation between the fleet and the ground forces is kind of pivotal to a lot of our kind of gameplay design, right? It's a really kind of interesting space. It's very unique to this game compared to previous Total Wars. So your fleet is able to provide bombardments. It's able to drop these things called deployables. So Space Marines, for example, they can't replenish on the ground, right? You can't just walk up to the local village and and turn some people into a Space Marine, right? They have to come from other places. But what you can do is your fleet can drop a little kind of medical supply crate. Your detachment can then walk up to that, pick it up, and then heal that way. So there's a real kind of integral connection, especially for Space Marines, between the fleet and the land gameplay.
And the fleet's going to be about how I'm getting between the planets, I assume?
Yes, of course. So any detachment can call in a transport fleet, and they can fly off. But you will have this kind of big central fleet that acts as the kind of main kind of pivotal point around which those will need to move. Right? Like if you try and send your transport fleets to push past the enemy main fleet, they're not going to last very long.
Yep.
They're going to go crashing down from the surface of the planet. Some of them might survive, but it's not going to be a good ending for you.
Fantastic. Well, we're on the second page. A few of the other things. Oh, do you want to talk about what Bedson's popping up?
So James is now looking at the recruitment screen. Space Marine units, like I said, they're very expensive. You should not be recruiting lots of them very frequently. Most of your armies, and I know this is going to be hard for a lot of Total War players to kind of adjust to, should not have 20 units in them. Right, that's not how Space Marines function. You're going to be relying on local allies to kind of fill those gaps. Right,
Yep.
You're going to have to kind of be working with the local Ashmachar and the local Planetary Defense militias, while you are using these very small elite forces that are extremely powerful, but also extremely valuable and vulnerable to being lost.
A couple of questions I just saw of what you were talking about earlier. Can you have multiple fleets? Can you have armies on multiple planets?
You can have armies on multiple planets, yes. So you'll only have one main fleet, but you can have multiple transport fleets. So any detachment can call in a little transport beacon, and then in a couple of turns, a fleet will come pick them up and you can fly off. So you can have multiple armies traveling around, but you'll only have that one big fleet at any one time.
So you would be able to wage war across every single planet at the same time
if you wanted
chose.
to, yes. It's probably not the most efficient way to approach the campaign, but you can do that should you so desire. Another fun thing, so I mentioned deployables earlier. So there's a little example of one of them here. There's a little crashed Land Raider in this district. What will happen? Land Raiders, for those who aren't familiar with them, are these super powerful ancient tanks. They aren't something you can just roll off a factory line, right? If one is destroyed, it's a pretty big deal. Fortunately, they're so durable that if you happen to lose one in battle, the wreckage will still be there on the campaign map. You can go there and you can perform a little action to kind of pick it up and get in your army. So James can do that now. Boom, we've got a Land Raider. We really want to bring in a lot of those kind of on-map interactions back into the game. That again, something we used to have in previous Total Wars, right? In Med 2, you could build a little watchtower or something with your army and it would appear there. And we're bringing back a lot of that kind of stuff as well. So Ashmachar in particular, as they go around, they'll be building little artillery bastions that will like automatically shoot at anyone who enters their zone of influence. They can build a Death Strike missile launcher that can be used to fire missiles to the other side of the planet. Little trench networks and that kind of thing. So there's all kinds of fun little bits and bobs that will now appear on the map. You can interact with in a really kind of nice, visual, tangible way.
Are you looking to end turn, Bedson? Go for it. You did spark a thought, and then I saw a message in chat that grabbed my head. So someone was saying it looks like there's not as many options, and that is because there is a lot of the campaign elements have been stripped out of this for this demo.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, so a lot of systems that you would find in the full game, so like the full building trees, the full fleet upgrade trees, the full tech tree, they're not visible here, but they are there. The tech trees, for example, because the tech trees extend over the course of the entire Crusade Theatre experience, right? They are big. I know a lot of people have been looking at the new Nagash Black Pyramid tech tree that we had into Warhammer 3. That is, just wait until you see the Orc tech tree. It's full, chaotic, massive, sprawling stuff. So there's going to be lots of options. Depending on who you're playing as, you'll have those options in different places. Right? Space Marines aren't really big on building so much on planets, but they do have this whole fleet upgrade system, which is unique to them. So they will have a very kind of intricate way of upgrading their fleets that wouldn't be available to Ashmachar, but Ashmachar might have more options of building on the ground and that kind of thing.
So someone was asking about diplomacy. As an example.
So diplomacy is an interesting one, right? Because the tagline is "There is only war in the grimdark future of the 12th millennium." So we are not going to be seeing things like Space Marines sitting down with orcs to negotiate a peace treaty where they're trading like a jade chicken in return for the settlement of Yoyang and all that. It's much more tactical in its focus. And much more kind of contextual, right? So even though you might never formally make peace with the orcs, there might be scenarios where both of you are happening to fight the same person who might be even more evil from the orcs, or anything. In those cases, you might temporarily reinforce each other, even though you're still at war with each other. So for the course of that battle, you won't be fighting each other, but once you're back on the campaign map, you'll be fighting. We've also have got a lot of kind of nice tactical options for Space Marines when they interact with Ashmere Tarum, for example, or planetary governors. Really nice crunchy things like, as a Space Marine, you can walk up to like a planetary militia unit, army, and say, follow me.
Yep.
And they will follow you.
That's
like
good.
not in their turn, in your turn, they will follow you around, and when you fight a battle, they'll join you in. So you have these kind of really cool tactical options that allow you to manipulate status quo that are using diplomacy.
Yep.
Sorry, go on.
Oh no, you go.
Yeah. Another example here is the governors. You can see in the bottom left.
That's actually what I was just about to ask.
There we go. I knew it. So every planet will have like a slightly quirky governor character who's kind of in charge of that planet. And like all factions, so all factions will react to things you do in the world. So everyone has an attitude towards you. But governors in particular are a little bit capricious. And they don't tend to like it when you mess around on their planet. But they've all got different personalities, right? So you might find a governor who really loves industry. Like he loves his trains, for example. So if you go on his planet and you start bombing all of his trains and his industrial factories, he's going to get really pissed off at you, and he's not going to want to support you, and he's not going to give you access to some diplomatic actions that you would have with that governor. However, you might have a governor who's a complete psychopath, and he actually loves it when you kill anyone, even his own citizens on his planet. So when you're blowing up his factories, he might be like, "Hey, cool, I love that." So there's all these opportunities for kind of like fun, weird storytelling with the governors, where it's a kind of another version of diplomacy, but in line with how this IP works.
Yes. And is the attitude log something we can click to show?
Yeah, probably won't be anything in there. No,
he's not done anything yet. But when you do things, that is going to plus or minus with the governor.
The kind of things that you've done, right? So it's a kind of it's quite a fun game of like working out what the governor likes and what they don't like.
Yep.
We also have these edicts, which are you working with more kind of continent level authorities to get things done. We've actually recently changed all the content of these, so these are a bit old. But they would be things like, for example, making sure that all the workers are working extra overtime.
Yep.
And if they refuse, then they go to become servitors or whatever. So you have a little bit more kind of political control, but that's going to be spending that influence resource, which kind of governs your ability to manipulate other factions in the world. If you want to be doing that kind of thing, you need to be keeping the governor happy. You need to be doing things that are diplomatic.
Someone started a question with Mr. Jake, but I think they're talking to you. They're asking just for, as a recap then, what is it like to start a campaign?
It will depend a lot on what campaign you're starting. But that's one of the great things about having these multiple different... I guess Crusade Theatre, I guess is the question. So if we think about trying Crusade Theatre, which is that campaign of campaigns, you would have a campaign which you start in. Every faction has a starting campaign. And you just go straight into that. So this is something like this is very much like the first thing you would see after choosing your faction or building your custom faction. You go straight into your first campaign. When you finish that, that's when you kind of zoom out to the Crusade Theatre layer, and you'll effectively see like a sort of node map of all these different star systems connected by like space lanes and stuff. And then it's up to you like which order you proceed through those on your journey towards Armageddon.
I will have a follow-up question for you on that. But before I see that, I see a lot of people asking about other features of stuff like co-op campaign, multiplayer battles. We're not going to talk about those at the moment, but we will talk about those. There's still a lot of tech being worked out in the background. We will come back and we will have those discussions. I don't want you to feel like we're ignoring you. I do see it. We just don't have anything at the moment to be able to give solid information about the infrastructure and systems there.
There's another Space Marine feature on the screen here I could talk about.
Go for it.
So if... Benson was already moving in the right direction. It's what he knew. So one of the things about the Space Marines, right, that's really interesting about the IP and story about them is that while they are like the heroes of the Imperium in some ways, everyone is also absolutely terrified of them. Am I allowed to swear on this stream?
If you say it, I can't stop you. So.
Okay, I was going to say, well, everyone's shit scared of them because of a little thing that happened 10,000 years ago called the Horus Heresy.
Yep.
So you are...
What's that?
Well, how long have we got? They are constantly juggling between this tension between, like, I am here to, kill Xenos and save the Imperium, but also this like sclerotic, awful nightmare bureaucracy that is the Imperium might not be giving me the resources that I actually need to do that. But if I do the things to get those resources, like administer territory, some Inquisitor back on Terra, he's going to get a little pissy, a little bit nervous about me building empires and stuff. So you're constantly juggling this concept of suspicion, which is something you'll generate when you do things that are a little bit naughty, like holding too many territories, and renown, which is a thing you get when you do things that you're meant to do, right? When you kill Xenos good. So if you're, but the more famous you become and the more renowned you become, the more eyes are on you. So you might be the best Space Marine guy in the world who's done all these victories, but as many chapters have encountered throughout their history, that just means that the Inquisition are more suspicious of you because they're more worried that you might do something wrong.
Yep.
So we're really keen to explore that kind of tension at the heart of the Imperium. Right? Like the Imperium are not good; they're not the good guys. Right? Like this is the nightmare regime that you're working for, and you're really having to kind of balance that against what you need to do. There might be cases where the morally correct thing to do, like not murder civilians, might be seen as deeply suspicious. So there'll be all kinds of fun scenarios that kind of come from that.
Well, it depends on if they were suspicious civilians, I guess.
Who says they're suspicious, right?
The question I had for you was the move to a theatre system, and so campaigns contained within the theatre. What is it that's solving?
Two things really. So we have seen. I think most people who play Total War will realise is that the best part of any Total War campaign is the first 20 to 30 turns, right? I think that's almost universally accepted, right? Because that's where it's a bit more of a curated experience. You're not snowballing, and we really wanted to find a way to make the game feel big and sprawling and interconnected, and support multiple successive campaigns, without having to make that into one just big never-ending thing, right? Basically, it's imagine it's people, we see this all the time in Warhammer, right? People go and they play 100 Karl Franz campaigns. And the dream of this is, every Karl Franz campaign you play, isn't just thrown away at the end, right? It feeds into your next Karl Franz campaign, so it feels like it's all part of a big ongoing journey.
Yeah. So I guess the equivalent is, you play a Karl Franz campaign, and the first campaign is, you're in the old world, right? And then you finished it, well done, you've conquered the old world. And then instead of that kind of ending there, or that being your experience, when you start the next Karl Franz campaign, you're not in the old world again, you're in the new world, or in Lustria, right?
Yeah.
So it's you're taking that army and you're an invading force somewhere else.
Yes, and you get that nice reset, which helps keep the difficulty curve in place. It helps keep the game varied, right?
Yep.
Because these planets and these systems will be very different, with different objectives, different enemies to fight. So it allows us to kind of have this long-going narrative where you might play, 600 turns across Crusade Theatre, but we can kind of keep it fresh, keep injecting new stuff, keep the gameplay engaging without it kind of getting run out of control. So it's a really exciting way to kind of, I think, capture. I think sometimes some of us, I'm getting old now. I like to be able to complete a campaign in an afternoon, right? And this allows me to do that with a smaller campaign, for example, but still not feel like that is kind of wasted or thrown away when I'm done with that.
To scoop up a couple of little things that people have grabbed from me from chat. Questions about resizing the UI. I believe there will be a lot of kind of those accessibility and rescaling options. Not in this demo. The point of it is it's kind of plug and play, but that's something that we'd look into. How big is this planet relative to other planets?
So it depends what you mean by big. In terms of actual physical size of the orb, I think this is a medium-sized planet, so it's not the biggest one we have. In terms of actual number of regions on it, it's very stripped back.
Yep.
Like I said, I think the average planet, a large planet, would have around 3 continents on it. Each of those would have about 5 to 7 regions. A region is split into about 5-ish districts.
Yep.
So you're talking about I can't do the maths, but there's quite a lot bigger than what you see here in terms of actual kind of gameplay content and factions and all of that stuff.
I have just looked at the time. We are at 3:30 and we have so much to go through.
God, okay.
So a little bit of a speed run on resources. What resources am I using here as Space Marines?
So Space Marines, your core resources are requisition, and that's what you would use to recruit new units, to upkeep new units, to build buildings, to build fleet upgrades, and influence, which is a kind of your local political resource that you would use to like I said, get the governor to do things for you, maybe to recruit some allied units from a friend National Mataran faction, that kind of stuff. So those are kind of faction level ones. But there's resources everywhere in this game, right? James, if you select a region on the map, you'll see that this region has 17 billion people in it. So that's the population of the region. So we are actually modelling, each region has a population count. That will go up and down. If you bombard it, they'll die. If you blow up the planet, they'll all die. And that in turn will feed into the amount of resource that produces for you.
Did you just bombard that region?
Maybe. I haven't actually checked with the UI updates now. You might have to click off it and try again. Okay. No.
Oh, they were in their bunkers.
They were. But
it will update. That's really cool then. So we've spoken about population edicts, Space Marine mechanics, resources, governor interactions, events on the regions, unit recruitment. Units don't need a general.
Oh yeah. I thought we mentioned it. I guess there's another case of us kind of going back to our sort of past in some ways and trying to pull the best of all worlds of Total War. Yeah, you can freely split your armies, you can merge your armies. And that works really nicely with this like slightly coarser movement set because you can do things like, if you've got a choke point that's slightly too wide, right, you just take an army and you split it in half and they reinforce each other, you can defend both points, right? You don't have to try and like awkwardly position the zones of control just in the right place. So in a lot of ways, even though there's less places to stand, there's actually, I think, a lot more interesting tactical decisions that you're making, which I think is really important.
And it helps the AI to interact with those systems, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We have got just a few more campaign things to say, and then we'll go into the second battle. Right, campaign. We've spoken about that. Victory conditions.
So they will be quite campaign specific. So depending on the campaign, you might be trying to kill a specific orc war boss. You might be trying to hunt down a renegade Imperial Guard commander. You might be trying to capture some specific factories, something like that. So it's very specific to the campaign and to the faction as well, right? Eldari are not going to be pursuing the same goals. Eldari goals are often weird and not comprehensible to mortal beings. So you'll see a lot of variety in what you're trying to achieve in each individual campaign, and even planet to planet there'll be a lot of variety.
But as always, the goal of them is there's a kind of general objective for you to be able to do it. I believe you can continue beyond that if you want to take off the whole system.
They're quite broad, the objectives,
Yes.
right? Like when it's not hand-holdy. It's totally up to you to decide how you want to achieve that goal. And we're going to support all kinds of, when you combine traits and tech trees and all of that, there's going to be many, many different ways you can approach these problems.
Fantastic. Detachment composition effects.
Oh yeah, this is a little one. This is an idea we nicked from our colleagues over on Warhammer DLC from the Gorfang Rockgut DLC. You get nice little effect. Basically, depending on who's in your detachment, you will get passive effects that do different things. So one of my favourite ones is that if you're playing as one of the orc features is you run around and you collect scrap piles, and if you have you have a Gretchen unit, and Gretchen are generally a terrible unit, they're not very good in battle. But if you have a few of them in your army now has some Gretchen who they can send to pick up scrap. So as you go collect scrap, you donate more scrap. So your choice of units in the army has kind of campaign consequences in a really nice way. So sometimes it will be ability, right, that you unlock. So a lot of the Space Marine doctrines you will unlock by having a certain combination of units in your army, and again, it adds that kind of tactical element of how you combine your armies.
I will say, you didn't mean Gorfang Rockgut. That wasn't one of the DLCs. That's not Will confirming a DLC, I promise.
Oh, sorry. Who was it? What's his name?
Is it the orc?
Yeah, the orc guy.
Which one?
The most recent orc one.
From Omens.
Oh, Gorbad Ironclaw. That's his name. Yeah, sorry.
There was no. We're not making up a new orc. I'm confirming that as a DLC. Fantastic. So we've got detachment compositions, character skills.
Yes. So we will have characters will have skills. They have skill trees. They have traits. Those won't be visible in this build, but
there we go.
Yeah, it's a little less. There's a little less focus on characters versus some previous from Warhammer. So these aren't going to be skill trees where you have like 30 different skills, where you have incremental skill points. There's a lot more kind of chunky binary choices. There's also a really cool thing that we've got in. So we brought back the concept of followers, which again is something we had in the previous game like Medieval. But these are not just like a UI icon that you put on your character. If you have a flash kit follower as an orc and you put him in your warlord's bodyguard, he's going to be there in battle, right? If you have a chaplain and you put them in your chapter master's bodyguard, he's going to be there in battle. So these followers are things you can collect, but you'll actually see them in the bodyguard of your character.
And that's been really important from the dynamic cutscenes and from you saying events on the map. It is about when you've done something, you've added someone to your squad. It's about seeing that reflected, right?
It's not just a game about menus and numbers, right? It's about real things that happen in the world space.
We have two more things, and then we will let Bedson play this battle. Unit specialization and upgrades.
Yes, so Big Club Tabletop is how you kit out your units. Space Marines in particular have a lot of different options. There are Autobot, Stalker Bot rifles, and again, not in this build, but you will be able to, on a per unit basis, customize exactly what weapons that they have.
Yep.
And those will unlock based on their experience levels. And then as they get more experience, you might even be able to upgrade into a whole new unit type, right? So you might be able to take your regular intercessor, they get really skilled, they can become a Stern Guard veteran, and then they'll have even more kind of cool weapon options, right? So you have really fine nitty-gritty control of exactly how all of your units are equipped. My favourite is the Death Dread, because you can choose how many of its arms are guns and how many of its arms are swords. So there's all kinds of cool stuff you can do.
Okay, the last question we have is, are there different planet regions?
Yes, so each of these kind of regions, that's the larger group of districts that you can see here, has a kind of a theme and a purpose to it. One thing that's really important about this IP is that, it's not... A lot of the infrastructure here has been here for 10,000 years, right? No one is turning up and building a new hive city. The hive city is there. So you'll see, for example, there's a Voidcraft Disruptor network here. That has its own unique building tree that you would only find in that kind of region.
Yep.
And you can't just build that anywhere, right? So you kind of turn up there. You have to deal with this kind of the local landscape in a kind of fun way.
Yep.
So.
Cool. We're going to let Benson go into the battle. There may be some more campaign stuff we pick up, but we have 2 working mics now, hopefully. So should be that we can all talk at once. There was a question of what factions there will be at launch.
So we have our 4 playable factions, which is Space Marines, Eldari, Orcs, and Ashmetara. Each of those will have 2 playable sub-factions, which are like an authored lore faction. So they'll come with their own special traits, their own special characters, colour theme, etc. But for each of those, you'll also be able to build, many, many thousands of combinations of custom factions as well.
Has our capture card gone down? Oh, let me put us on main camera. Oh no, it's rebooted itself. Hold on, we're back. Thank you, Will. I will say I've been having a blast customizing the factions where I can. I think a lot of people are gonna. Do you think a lot of people are going to immediately jump in, make their first Space Marine custom chapter as their first experience, or would you expect them to come in as...
I kind of want to support both, right? Because we have 2 kinds of players. Some people just want to get straight into action. They just want to be like, I'm boring. Sorry, I'm biased because I don't like Ultramarines. But you can say I'm boring. I want to play Ultramarines. You can do that.
Yeah.
Or you can be like, I'm cool. I'm going to make my pink Marines called the Space Bears or whatever. So yeah, we really want to support both options, right? Like customization is huge. But we do know, especially from the Warhammer trilogy, that people like having these kind of big names who they can play as well. So we're really trying to support both options.
And you can see there in the... I think our capture card is just about recovered. You can see in there the custom faction in that was their colours. That was Bedson's colours that he'd chosen in that cutscene. And we got that Land Raider we rescued.
Yeah, that's the Land Raider rescue,
yeah. And a lot of other tanks. Like, he's clearly trying to... match Mercy the match tank numbers.
Oh yeah, he was busy while we were talking.
This is an absolutely devastating amount of firepower.
He wants to make sure he really doesn't lose this battle. Okay, feel free to get started. So one of the burning questions is we have a Land Raider in there, but people have spotted there's no such thing as a transport capacity yet.
Yeah.
Is there a transport ability?
Not for release. It's definitely something that we're keen to look into. So we'll see.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I've seen some of the discussions about it. We know it's something that people would see and that they definitely want. My understanding is the discussion is to make sure the technology to do it right is there. That's why that decision's been made, rather than rushing in with a system that kind of would half work. We want to do something that actually feels good for transports. Yeah,
and there's also the secondary part, which any feature that we do, we want to ensure that the AI can also use it correctly. And like transports are such a central mechanic for how you can operate on a battlefield. What are your tactical choices? So, if we do transports, we want to ensure that the AI is also capable of using them.
Yeah. And we're planning to support this game for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Like we'll be constantly adding new features, and certainly, like, say if your favourite faction happens to be heavily reliant on transports, I think you can probably suspect that we would have them in game before that happened.
Yeah. And in the meantime, like units that are transports, we're trying to ensure that they're also relevant combat units.
Yep.
Which they often are. And like the transports you've seen are generally a bit more combat capable as well.
And we do have things like drop pods, and I think some units can be dropped by Valkyries. Is that something we've kept? So you will see kind of transport-like things, but they're not going to hang around the battlefield afterwards. They're going to fly in and drop their units off and then fly away.
You're really hoping they're going to go over that bridge, aren't you? So some things people have seen there. We spoke in the last stream about the Astra Militarum's in-battle abilities. The Space Marines have their own. Bedson, if you're willing to mouse over them.
Yes, so we have three doctrines. So you have the tactical doctrine, which basically gives you a burst of speed, bit of accuracy. Main reason for this is basically if you need to move, for example, if you need to strafe away from an incoming horde, get to a key position fast. It's good for that.
Yep.
And you can basically activate in an area to gain that bonus where you most need it. Devastator basically maximizes your firepower, helps you punch through armor. just kind of really kind of help your gun line punch through where it's needed. And finally, you've got the assault doctrine, which is like when you need some good melee output, it's there for you. So
again, kind of mimicking the tabletop, right?
Like if you have your Terminators punching somewhere or your assault intercessors, go for assault. It's gonna help you shine.
Yeah, and again, the reason that Benson has these unlocked is because he's built a balanced army with some shooting units, some melee units, and that's how you're going to get access to these various doctrine abilities.
Yeah, you can see the Orc milkshake in action as well. It's traveling in a slightly.
They really hated that building.
Yeah, it really hates that building, and it hates a couple of orcs that have been chucked away. But well aimed. This vortex is incredibly powerful.
So that was an ability from the librarian, our favourite space wizard.
And that's one thing we didn't have in the Astra Militarum battle. Bedson, if you're able to click the librarian, and that is abilities. Did you find them in the battlefield instead of the cards? Well done. That is them having their own abilities outside of just Space Marine abilities, right? There are unit abilities.
Yeah, we've tried to keep unit abilities quite minimal. Because in the end, we want to focus on the action, and we kind of want to ensure that the game it's more about tactics than just micromanaging every ability that you have, or say you hit the combat buff button to give you 20% more attack for this unit, and then wait on a cooldown.
There was a question there of why were there Imperial Guard in the middle of the battlefield when we started it?
So basically, we have ambient units. These are units. There's constant war on these planets, and there's always going to be local forces already kind of joining in on the fight. It just really helps kind of set the mood and set the scene for this vast conflicts.
Yeah. And it helps get the scale as well, right? Even when your army of Space Marines might not be tons and tons of entities, any battle you're fighting, there's going to be a few hundred Astra Militarum, and a few hundred orcs running around, or whoever the other side might be.
And here we see one of the kind of cool abilities of really heavy vehicles like Bane Blades, Land Raiders, or Stompa, where there's certain buildings that they can just smash through.
Yep. And the Bedson's setting up a perfect ambush there.
Yeah, he's gonna
just kind of Kool-Aiding his way through all the buildings.
Yeah.
So one of the things we didn't get to talk about last time, which was very shooting focused, was melee combat. We did have a lot of questions about it though, so I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of a breakdown of how melee combat works here, maybe in how it's different to other Total War titles, or what's been improved.
So kind of again, the key part that we've kind of focused on is how do we sell the fantasy? How do we make melee combat kind of look like it belongs in the world? A key area that we've really looked into is just the fluidity of combat. So how frequently do entities attack, for example? You can't do a Space Marine where every 4 seconds a Space Marine will attack.
Yep.
That just doesn't sell the fantasy. So we've kind of gone, Space Marine should probably try to attack as frequently as possible. And that's kind of the approach we've taken with them. So there are times where Space Marine will take a break from attacking, but that might just be a break to shoot.
To get the pistol ready.
Yeah. Or just to find a new thing to punch. And we basically spend quite a bit of time just kind of trying to figure out how do entities make movement decisions in combat. How can they maneuver to get to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
So for example, Space Marines, if they start getting kind of surrounded, they'll try to kind of huddle up together towards kind of forming this fighting circle, where basically they're kind of protecting each other's backs. Space Marines can be flanked. They generally they take less of a debuff if they get basically flanked compared to
all around.
They're armored more around. I think they just have better awareness to begin with, and they're pretty much always surrounded.
They're used to it.
Yeah, and then for example, we have other entities. We kind of have this threat system running underneath, or in the melee combat itself, where entities will basically try to figure out, is this thing threatening to me?
Yep.
So for example, a Space Marine might not stand back from an Orc boy, but they might stand back from a Stompa.
Oh yeah.
And in the same way, a trooper, a Astra Mil trooper might not be well, but
What are they not going to step back from?
well, they're gonna probably not Gretchen, but they, for example, like boys, will be more threatening towards a trooper, and they'll try to like they don't want to withdraw from combat, like it's their place, they know what they want to do, whereas a trooper might, or like a boy might step away from Space Marine and be like, okay, actually, this is still a bit scary. Like I'm Gretchen, I want to punch them, but this Space Marine just keeps killing my friends.
I just got distracted by Benson performing the most egregious act of
overkill. Really dislike that one, Orc. All right, fantastic. We can end that there. I will say well, obviously we are still working on optimization. Genuinely, that is our capture card dying in the background there. It's been going for a few years, and I think it's time for us to get a new one. Right, we're going to load back. I think we've got one more battle that we can play through, but we'll play through that battle and we'll just take some questions. So there's nothing more for us. So we'll see if there's stuff that people can bring up and that hopefully we'll be able to answer. So if you guys have questions based on anything you've heard, so we've got campaign to talk about, we've got battle to talk about. Otherwise, even if there are things we've already answered, we can go back over if needed. But otherwise, we will have Bedson whiz through this final battle and then we will start to wrap things up. Who are your favourite factions in Warhammer 40,000? Not in Total War.
Oh, I'm an Agnek.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love my little robot Skitarii. I have an army downstairs. I was very sad we weren't put in the first game, but never say never.
Yeah, for me it's Astra Militarum.
You're very happy then.
More of the, well, not quite. My army is Death Corps, so still waiting.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see in this battle that in the first battle Benson was fighting, his librarian was in Tacticus armor. This time he's in Terminator armor, so he's a lot more of a chunky lad. When I played this battle with my colleague Dave in the past, we've started calling him Dumble War.
Oh yeah.
Or occasionally Gundalf. We can't decide which we prefer because he's a battle wizard. But yeah, we really want you to get very attached to these characters, right? Like you're going to see him go from a little Tacticus armored. I don't say nobody because he can blow you up with his brain.
Yeah.
But from a junior to someone who wears a whole solid ton of Ceramite armor.
Can they die?
They can die. Yes. So apart from your faction leader, every character can die permanently. They have a wound system, which means they'll be a little bit resilient. They have to kill them a few times. And of course, for Space Marines, it wouldn't be Space Marines if you couldn't take the mushed up, almost corpse of a Space Marine and shove it in a big metal tin can and send it back into battle as a dreadnought. So there will be a little mechanic where even if your character has died, they might continue to serve the Emperor in a slightly chonkier form.
And when that dreadnought's blown up, we'll put that in a bigger dreadnought. Be like one of those Russian nesting dolls by the end.
Yeah, so even so dreadnoughts and actually Land Raiders as well, like we're treating them almost like characters as well. Like these are super rare, super powerful, ancient creations that are really valuable. So yeah, I think while you probably can theoretically get a 20 stack of dreadnoughts at some point very, very late in the theatre, like that's not something we'll want to make easy, or something you'll see as very commonplace, right? Even a 20 stack of Space Marines in total, right, is actually quite a rare sight.
Also, I will ask you that question in a second, because someone was asking, will all factions have a deep level of customization? And yes, they will. What was the last thing you said?
Dreadnoughts. 20 stacks of dreadnoughts.
There we go. So I saw, I think it was a conversation on Reddit of how are we stopping doom stacking in this? What will stop me from just getting 20 dreadnoughts turn 10?
Yeah, so a lot of it will be just how we regulate the economy, and the dreadnoughts, for example, like to actually get a dreadnought, you have to there's a capacity limit on them, which you have to kind of upgrade over time, and also like certain units, for example, will primarily only be available via upgrades from other units, right? So you kind of borrowed from the Warriors of Chaos in Warhammer 3. If you want like a Stern Guard veteran or a Terminator squad, right, there might be some very late game options to recruit those directly, but most of the time you're going to have to rank up an intercessor, make them into a veteran, upgrade them again, so they feel like really valuable over time. Obviously, other factions won't have so many problems getting units. It's you actually probably end up with more Gretchen than you really want in your campaign, but you've got them, so you might as well make use of them by throwing them in as meat shields and using their teeth to buy better units.
Fantastic. There's questions there about sync kills, if sync kills made a return.
Yeah, I mean, they're there in small portions.
I remember we had quite an in-depth discussion on one of our streams about the difficulties of sync kills when it comes to then balancing factions, of like the length of a sync kill and how invulnerable they are during that time. So I think this is about trying to find a balance between the cinematic and having reliable units where if you ask them to pull back, they're not stuck in a 10-second animation.
Yeah, and it's very much about, like, again, for us, sync kills are a way of selling connection.
Yeah.
But use them too much, they become very repetitive, unless you've built like a huge pool of sync kills, which is incredibly expensive. So, you know, I think we have a lot of faith in, like, we can sell most of the connection just to doing asynchronous combat really well, and ensuring that there's good reactions, there's a feeling of impact, and that's kind of like our main focus, because like asynchronous combat plays better for the game that we're trying to make. But there is a place for, like, you know, the spectacle of a sync kill.
It's finding that balance, and I think there was a discussion of, like, is it ragdolling, I guess, when they're killed, of like it's more physics based responses to things. I mean, we saw it in the Land Raider kind of veering on one side as it was going over an obstacle, right? That wasn't an animation, that was a dynamic response.
So that would be like the physics based impulses that, for example, vehicles have.
Yeah.
We don't use ragdolling for basically knocked flying of infantry, for example.
Yep.
That is still kind of more of a game logic driven, like, speed calculation or velocity calculation of, like, they're going in this direction, they're going to lose this amount of speed due to air resistance.
So a much fancier thing than me just saying ragdolling.
Well, ragdolling is a very specific technological term.
I feel like I've treaded on a landmine.
If you give an orc and all his bits go flying off in different directions, like, that's not candling. That's kind of all of it, sort of dynamic. And the vehicle tech stuff is really cool. Like, if you take a ramp at enough speed with a Land Raider, it'll get up there and stuff. And, you know, like when a Bane Blade fires a cannon,
just like in tabletop,
kind of, you know, it kind of rocks back and stuff. And a lot of that is actually physics driven rather than.
That's really cool.
And again, with the destruction of the buildings as well, right? Like, a lot of that is, well, all of the building destruction, right? That's driven by physics, right? And that creates these kind of really cool emergent situations. So the orcs have a unit, Storm Boy, which is an orc with a big rocket strapped to his back, and it's not the most reliable unit in the world for obvious reasons. So sometimes when it dies, it will just go flying off in random directions. And it can crash into a building. And that building can then fall over and land on some other Storm Boys who can then explode and then fly into something else. So it really allows these kind of really cool emergent storytelling moments, which is super exciting.
Oh, this is very important for Bedson that this goes off, because he is getting relatively overwhelmed. So this is quite an important strike. Oh, there we go. Has that saved you?
The question is, do you still have reinforcements?
He has a few. And you don't have any? He's got one.
The trump card.
Will the AI be playing differently, I guess, on battle for different factions like Eldari?
Yes, there's definitely a goal. Like, you know, they'll approach the battle differently. They'll use different formations. Obviously, like, the units that you have play a big part also in the decision making that you're gonna do. Like, the orcs here are generally mostly melee units. Their army is very melee focused. It makes sense for them to try to combat you. But obviously, like something like an Eldari will take a very different approach to combat.
I think Bedson's trying to offensively use some of his drop pods now, which is a fantastic way to use them.
Yeah, he should.
He's teleported in.
I mean, that's still a fine move, because, you know, those Terminators in that combat, there's nothing to really hurt them, so.
I think I just saw a Storm Boy flying off there.
Rest in peace, Space Bears, someone said. It's alright, the Space Bears were successful. This is back to the not Ultramarines.
Yeah, so long as you kill enough orcs as you die, it's fine. You know? That's your job, live and die for the Emperor.
There is a question of, is it the intent that the custom faction will be represented on the unit cards?
In some way, yes. I think we're still trying to work out exactly how we do that. And on the kind of AI point, similarly, we definitely want those personalities to come across from the campaign as well. So if you're fighting against, say, a sort of a Bad Moon themed orc faction who's all about shooting and Daka, right? They will be recruiting lots of flash kits, they'll be recruiting lots of shooter boys. Whereas if you're fighting against a kind of a goth themed melee faction, they'll be using lots of, you know, mega knobs with kill swords and stuff. So you should see very different army compositions based on its personalities, which again keeps the game varied, keeps it feeling alive and exciting.
Fantastic. I got a bit lost watching it there and forgetting that also I was meant to be grabbing questions for you. Would there be any chance that if you made a custom faction, you would end up facing them in your own campaign as a different faction? I'm really throwing questions at you now that I don't know the answer to, so good luck.
So I'm not sure where we've settled on this, but there is some stuff that we were trying to do with in terms of bringing in your friends' custom factions into your campaigns. I don't quite know where we've settled with that something we do for launch, but there are definitely lots of really cool opportunities for that kind of stuff that we can kind of bring in. Yeah, watch this space. I just love seeing the carnage after this.
I know.
It does look like Benson stabilized it.
It's not in this build, but we've had some tech put in recently where if you drive a tank across those corpses, they'll kind of pop like grapes in big gory splatters. So, yeah.
He's done it. Well done. Yeah. Fantastic. I was going to call out at the start that we all call him different things, James or Bedson, but it's not a term of hierarchy. It's because we've known him for 9 years. Awesome. Then I think that is our last battle. Well done, Bedson, for prevailing. Space Bears prevail, as the chat say. Perfectly planned to look close. Fantastic. Then we've run through everything we have here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed a bit more of an exploration around some of the intent that we have for our campaign, both within and without the build. So talking about some of the stuff that you'll be able to see perhaps in closed beta if you're lucky enough to get in, or beyond that to launch. But we will have news on closed beta soon for those of you who are looking for it, and you can expect Total War Warhammer 40,000 to be coming out in 2027. If you're there at Gamescom, you're probably not watching the stream, but go give it a go and let us know what you think. But if you haven't signed up for the closed beta, absolutely worth doing that as well. But thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to our fabulous guests. May not be the last we see of you guys. It is annoying that we ended up swapping seats. So thank you, Will, and thank you, Oscar, for joining us. We'll let you know when our next Alpha Strike is. I don't think it will be super far off, and that will probably be covering some of the closed beta. But other than that, we will see you next week for, I believe it will be our Glotkin stream. So I'll be starting up the save for that today. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much for the questions. And we'll get back to you next week.